the time from my first appointment to my second appointment, I went to dinner with my parents, and I didn't want to tell my parents I was pregnant until like my first ultrasound because I got completely freaked out from the birth boards. I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. But at dinner, I was about 9 weeks pregnant, and my mom just looked at me at some point in dinner, and she looked at me and she said, "Are you pregnant?" And she just kind of whispered it. I just like, I couldn't help but like tell her like, yeah. And so that was that. I was actually scared to tell my mom because she always told me like, she's like, wait to have kids, just wait. You can wait to have kids. So I was like, I'm like, my mom's gonna think I'm having kids too soon. And I was freaked out. I want to make sure everything was like good before I told her. But my mom knew, and I'm like, how'd you know? She's like, I just knew. And I was kind of upset that she like figured it out because I wanted to film her and I wanted to tell her and I wanted to get her response, but sometimes moms just know their daughters a little too well. Yeah, so then after my mom and my parents found out, I still waited to tell anybody else. I went then to my 10-week appointment, which was where I got my ultrasound, my first ultrasound, and everything looked really, really good, except then all of a sudden the ultrasound tech, she's like, I need to, I'll be right back, I need to get the doctor. And I'm like, that doesn't sound good. So she came back in with the doctor, and then they told me there was a visible hernia on the gut, which completely freaked me out. And then my doctor, like, he has a really thick, well, I have to go to a place where there's like 5 rotating doctors, so you really don't get the same doctor every time, but the doctor that came in had a really thick Spanish accent, so he started like saying what it could be. All I basically heard was that it may, like, it could have a hernia, and then he called it something like crazy, and then he said that it could be a sign that it has some kind of abnormalities, like Down syndrome and whatnot, and he did like kind of skim over that it could like resolve itself. Like he basically said, well, it could resolve itself, but he said more bad stuff than he did good. So like it completely freaked me out. And then he told me that I needed to go get extra screening at a different specialty place. So I needed to go get the first trimester screen, which is where they test to see if your baby has different abnormalities and whatnot. They measure like the back of the baby's neck. They measure, or they see if there's a nasal bone, because I guess babies with Down syndrome and different chromosomal whatever don't have a nasal bone. Part of pregnancy too is you have like this shortness of breath, so it's hard to talk a lot. But yeah, so those are a couple things. So I had to, basically then I had to wait about 2 weeks to go to this appointment. So in that 2-week period, I was just like kind of upset. Like this is my first like experience being pregnant, and it sucks. It sucks so bad. So I had to wait 2 weeks. Just really tired, didn't want to do anything. I googled like what a hernia like on the baby could be, and the majority, like you find like all this like bad stuff that it could be, but I was given like a little bit of hope because I read then online that there should be a visible hernia at 9 to 10 weeks, and my appointment was right at 10 weeks because there's this point in time in the baby where I think it's the bowels and maybe possibly the intestines, I don't remember exactly, but they actually come outside of the baby. Like they go and they come out outside of the baby, and then they do like a 90-degree angle and then go back inside. Like they do 90 degrees and go back inside. Like it's pretty crazy like what's developing inside of you. So that gave me like this little bit of hope, but there's all this other bad stuff that you can find and stuff. Google is like horrible because you can just find all kinds of bad stuff on Google. So I waited about 2 weeks, and then my husband and I went to that appointment, and that was probably the best part of my pregnancy thus far. We went to that appointment. My first ultrasound also was vaginal, so they basically take a probe and they go inside you and they like wand it in there and to like look at the baby. This appointment you have to drink 2 glasses of water before you go in, and because they want your belly to be like full, and then the ultrasound they do is an abdominal one, like one you see in the movies and TV shows and whatnot. So my nose is also really stuffy. Like sinuses are a problem when you're pregnant. So they went in and they did the abdominal like part, and my baby was actually standing on its head because I drank too much water and I had to pee really, really bad. So my baby was actually standing on its head. Yeah, so that was kind of funny. But the first thing the ultrasound tech told me when I went in there is she's like, you're here because they saw a hernia on your baby, right? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, at that point in time, there should be a hernia. So it's called a physiological hernia. So it was exactly like the one good thing that I did read on Google that it could be. But basically, like, it should be visible. And she's like, I would have been worried if at that point in time you came in and I didn't see a hernia on the baby. So she like made me completely relieved within being there. And then I had to be there for another like 40 minutes because she was trying to get proper measurements of the baby. I also had to go into the bathroom like 4 times to like let out half of the water in my bladder because she needed the baby to move so they could get proper measurements. In the time period I was there, they never actually got proper measurements, but they got tons of pictures. And at the end, they told me that basically they were like very happy with how my baby looked. They didn't need to schedule another appointment for me to come in there and get measurements because, I don't know, they were just really happy with what they saw, and then they were happy with my husband, and part of it is like our age and like our health history. So the doctor told me she was like very happy and not to worry, and they didn't even give me the blood testing that they normally do for that test. So basically they told me that the one doctor I went to was stupid. I don't know, but I don't know if it's like that they were just trying to protect themselves, but they really made me freak out a lot more than I should have, which is kind of, I don't think you should be that stressed out when you're having a baby. So my doctor gave me a lot of stress, but luckily, like, the place I go to, like I said, isn't just one doctor, and I won't be getting any more ultrasounds at that place. My next ultrasound is scheduled at the same place I went to before, where they do the anatomy scan and they test for the gender, which is Halloween. But yeah, that was freaky, but all is good, so that's really good. So yeah, and then my next appointment after that, so I was being like, I feel like so much better. Doctors can scare you, the internet can scare you, a lot of things can scare you, but yeah. So the next appointment I went to at my doctor's office was at 13 weeks or 14 weeks, like the end of the first trimester. So I'll tell you about that one before I go. The next one I went to, they basically, same routine, you come, you pee in a cup. I think the reason they do that, like every time you come in, they test your urine. I think it's to see if you have urinary tract infections or anything, because I think when you're pregnant, you're very prone to having like things like that happen. So I think that's, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's why they test your urine every time. They weighed me. I haven't gained any weight thus far during pregnancy, but you really aren't supposed to gain that much weight during the first trimester. Some people actually lose a bunch of weight from being overly nauseous. So my doctors aren't concerned about my weight so far. And then I went into a room, and basically they just made me fill out a little piece of paper, and like the questions on there are like, are you feeling depressed? And I'm like, no. But if you, I don't know. It was just kind of like they wanted to see like how you were mentally. And then they talked about which blood work that I would like to have done. And then I told them what kind of blood work I'd have done. And I told them basically I'd do whatever, like anything they want me to do, I'll just do the blood work. And then after that, that was it. Oh, and then the doctor comes, and they have like this thing called a Doppler, and it's just this little thing that they put on top of your belly, and then they listen for the baby's heartbeat. So I got to hear the baby's heartbeat. And that's about it. That's what happened my first trimester. I'm so happy to be out of it because I have so much more energy now. I'm not tired, which is such a plus, but my first trimester was kind of tough. So if you have any other questions, feel free to post them below, and then now I will be doing my weekly updates. So if you have anything that you would like to be posted in those weekly updates, feel free to put them below, and that's it for now. So